Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for a writing workshop sponsored by the Cornelia T. Bailey Foundation. It is my pleasure to introduce you to today's author. Dr. Shelly Cameron is an author known for her insightful nonfiction works. She is an authority in the fields of success, organizational leadership, personal growth, and inspiration with 9 published books on the subject. She spent over a decade in the global pharmaceutical and health industry, leading and coaching professionals at all levels. Dr. Shelley is the founder of Global Coaching Corner, president of the Hodges, Cowens, and Smiley Writers Group of South Florida, and 3-term vice president of the Hospitality and HR Association of Broward County, Florida. Welcome, Dr. Shelley. I'm turning it over to you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Serena, for having me and for the invitation from NSU, Nova Southeastern University's Alvin Sherman Library. I mean, I'm alumni. So it's a privilege to be here, and I'm totally thrilled to be here. Thanks also to the sponsorship of the Cornelia T. Foundation for the opportunity to speak and share something from my passion for writing. So I'll just get on the way for unleashing your publishing potential. And this presentation is basically for those who are, if you fall into any of these categories, right? Those who are aspiring authors who may be intimidated by the traditional publishing process. So this presentation is for you if you fall into that category. And also, if you are an OMG, I'm a new author. Oh my God, I have published. What's next? What do you need to do? So this presentation is also for you. And if you are a serial author, but you're not selling, or what I call you publish and you run. So this presentation is for people like these that fall into these basically these categories. An overview of what we'll be discussing is the evolution of publishing. And I'm going to give you some pros and cons of the traditional versus the self-publishing process, as well as looking at the writer's dilemma for the publishing process, and to go from wishful thinking to strategic action, to taking action, and finally, to revolutionize your writing career. So by the end of this presentation, chances are we're hoping that you would have walked away with something valuable that you can use to implement no matter where you are on the scale of publishing. Okay? So here we go. A little bit about me. Serena spoke a little bit about me, I wanted to share the beginning of how I got into writing. I remember when I was 9 years old, I'm from Jamaica and I had to do the common entrance exam to enter high school. And I sat there and I wrote an essay that was part of the requirements. And during the exam, I wrote an essay, a story, and I wish I could get my hands on it because I went into another world. I didn't feel like I was writing for an exam at all. I was into another world. And so that's where I think my beginning of my writing career began. Then as I pursued on, I worked with the GlaxoSmithKline Pharmaceuticals. It's a #3 worldwide. And I did a lot of policies and procedures, so I'm always writing. And that was my comfort zone. So I was always writing business writing, policies, procedures, and stuff like that. Then I decided to go do my doctoral studies. And guess what? That's when I dug into my dissertation. And I didn't just want to write something and just leave it. I wrote on success strategies and leadership. So I dug into that and researched it for many years. And after doing that, once it was done, it was published as one of those I learned at the time, one of those outstanding dissertation, and I got it published into the Journal of American Academy of Business, Cambridge, which is JAABC. So that was very exciting for me. So that's where my writing career began, and have continued through publishing some of the books that you may see here as well. I partnered with Dr. Indiana Robinson to do a review of women immigrants and the paths they took and the challenges that they faced. And I have been publishing. The first book started with success strategies. And from there it went. People, when I went to do seminars and workshops, they would ask me, so how do I do that? And I said, oh my goodness. So what I call it is books have babies. So I went and I did the manuscript, which is for what I have here called the Ditch It, Switch It. So that's how my career just went on. And then I think everything else was already introduced to you. So let's jump right in. So what is the writer's dilemma? What you find is that writers are waiting for traditional validation, right? You're knocking on doors like Stephen King. Remember Stephen King? He wrote, I don't know if you know his story, but he wrote Carrie. And he was sending out, and every time he would get back maybe about 200, no's, no, you can't, no, rejections after rejections. And then he decided that he was going to throw it in the garbage, and his wife saw it. And she took it out of the garbage bin, and she started reading, and she said, no, this one is good. You got something here. And sure enough, he sent it off, and they accepted that one. And that one went on to be that movie, even turned into a movie. He got an advance check on it, and he got into movies. So he's now a household name. But if he had given up, he wouldn't have. So writers are waiting on traditional validation, and what that is costing them is readers and potential income as well. 97% of manuscripts never reach their full potential. 97% of great manuscripts never reach their full potential. Quality manuscripts get rejected, just like I shared about Stephen King. And the visibility, also, there's a challenge with visibility as well for the different, an oversaturated market. So I wanted to share or lay the foundation for you of the book publishing evolution. I like to get at the foundation. Why are we doing this? And I wanted to get into this. This is the evolution of the book publishing industry. So it started with the traditional publishing from the pre-1900s. And what happened there were scribes. Remember those? Pens? Kids don't write with pens anymore, do they? But it was writing with the scribes were writing, and it was the pre-1900s where the wealthy ran the publishing effort. Publishing was done through the wealthy. You also had the early 20th century. That's where it went next, the early 20th century. And what happened in those days? Think about it. The industry consolidated and the literary centers rose up. Agents and the agent-publisher relationship began in the early 20th century. And that's where also advances in publishing checks, royalties came into to play as well. The late 20th century, the 1970s to 1990s, some of us were not even born then. But if you're getting into the craft, it's good for you to understand the evolution. You had mergers and acquisitions of the conglomerates of these printing industry and celebrity authors. It's always the celebrity authors that are accepted. But why? Why do you think the celebrity authors are the ones that are there? Let's go back up. Simply because they're promise of success. Success is what is promised, and they get more money from those persons who are publishing it. Then you went on to the digital revolution, and what happened there? You had Amazon came out, and then Kindle, and the ebook. The writers of the ebooks started, that explosion came out. So that's where that digital publishing also revolution came about in the 2000s to the 2010. And then later on, you had the current era where we are at now. Since 2015 to present, you have the options of self-publishing, hybrid publishing, and subscription, where you have the Kindle Unlimited and things like that that are available. So I wanted also to share with you a little bit about the traditional and this publishing pros and cons, right? Pros and cons of the traditional. This is just to show you. You can't read this slide because it is very small, but it is showing you of a PDF that I have that you can also acquire for looking at the pros and cons of the traditional publishing and the self-publishing. So if you need it, you can ask, just put it in the chat and we will be able to send that to you. So to get and to dive into traditional publishing, so what are the pros and the cons? So the pros of traditional publishing are professional support. You have the professional support. These individuals that work with these organizations know exactly what to do as far as editing and publishing and all of that. The traditional publishing also has distribution channels where you can get direct into bookstores and to libraries. distinct opportunity there for them because they already have that access. And also by society, it is seen as more credible. There are also no upfront costs. So that payment that you have to make to do your initial, there's no upfront cost, and you actually get advance payments, right? There's an advance payment. And like Stephen King, they have industry connections, which can turn your book into film, depending on it. So it might be film or documentary, whatever it is, they have that access. So the cons of the traditional publishing are it's extremely competitive, right? Extremely competitive. And that's the reason why you have those agents that sometimes will go that in relationship and you will keep hearing no, 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 because you are basically unknown if you're a new author, you might not be unknown. And if you're unknown, then that's would show you that you're not it's extremely competitive for you to get into. Then the other side of it is that you lose creative control. So if you want to have your book created with a beautiful cover that you think that it is all well and good the way that you like it, you're not able to do that because the traditional publishers will tell you, hey, this will not sell or that will not sell and things like that. Then also you have the slow timelines, right? So it takes a little longer for you to get published. When I was doing the journal, I submitted my article to them, and then they were able to get back to me. And luckily for me, I didn't have much changes or anything like that. Just I had to tailor it to their requirements, and then they accepted it. And guess what? The slow timeline. So I had to wait for what was it? Maybe about 8 to 12 months in order for it to be published in the journal the following year. So the slow timelines are there. You also get lower royalty rates for your book from the traditional publishers, as well as you don't have the right and the marketing limitations exist. You're not able to take your book and go do whatever you need to do with it in terms of marketing. You have the rights. You have to ask. You can't change covers. You can't do certain things like that. So those are some of the limitations that you have from the traditional perspective. So I'm going to share with you the self-publishing perspective. So what are some of the pros of the self-publishing? Some of the pros are you have the complete creative control, complete creative control. You can change your cover, you can do whatever you want to do. You also have higher royalty rates if you're publishing on Amazon or whatever other medium, because if you purchase an ISBN, you're able to get more money because you own that. So you have higher royalty rates. And also you have that speed to market. So like I shared with you about the journal article that I gave, you wouldn't have to wait for a long period of time for it to be published. It would just be published within the time frame that you decide that you want to publish it. You also have the rights, the retention of your rights. So you hold all rights to your book that you have written. And you also, what is one thing that is very, very important is that direct reader relationship. You're able to get out there, and I'll get into a little bit more deeper depth with these things after these points that I'm raising. And flexibility in pricing, you also have that as well. What can you do in terms of pricing if you want to price your book out of at a high price? There are some things that you would bear in mind, but you have that option of doing that. And you also have the lifetime shelf life. Now, on the other hand, for the self-publishers, there are some cons, right? And it includes upfront investment, right? You have to have that money in your pocket to be able to invest in what you want to do with your publishing. So you also have the quality control responsibility, right? What is the quality control responsibility? If you are publishing a book, you need to make sure that everything is in order. Everything that is done is in order. The quality control, the quality must be there. Limited distribution, physical distribution as well. So you're not able to get access into the traditional bookstores as you would like to, or you can get in, but there are certain ways that you need to get into it and to do it. So it takes a little bit more time and effort, and also the burden of marketing is all on you as a self-published author. There's also no advance payment. You remember those traditional? They get an advance payment first, Previous years, they were able to get a huge check, but these days they've not been getting that as much, as a bigger check as much than it was in previous years. There is also no advance, well, I said the advance payment, but the potential of the stigma that is attached to it. But just think about it. How many persons have you seen that walk into a store and looked at a book that says, oh, this is self-published? Therefore, no, their readers are looking for quality books. They're looking for titles that attract their attention. They're looking for book descriptions and things like that's what readers want and that's what they buy. And also the time commitment. So all the time is commitment is based on you. Everything that you have to do, you don't have a team that you're relying on. It's all about you and your time commitment. And then you have the hybrid publishing, which is a little bit of a support for self-published authors, right? They're small independent presses that they offer some creative control with professional support. You also have the assisted self-publishing services that handle technical aspects and traditional deals that you can get for printing self-publishing editions. Start self-publish. A lot of persons start self-publish, then they transition into traditional after proving that they market success. Now I wanted to get into some of the areas that you might be traditional self-published authors might find that they have opportunities. Opportunities exist from the industry has transformed, shifted power to authors. So there's a huge opportunity out there in the global marketplace. Access, the digital distribution is also there. Higher financial reward, as we mentioned before, because you own your own ISBN, so you get, maybe it depends on where you're going through, but for Amazon, it goes anywhere from 35% to about 70% of your royalties that you get to keep. And self-publishing has many success stories that defy conventional wisdom. So I wanted to share a little bit with you about some examples of persons who have actually started the route of self-publishing. I'm going to get into that because we all know the ins and outs. So we spoke about the pros and the cons of the traditional process. So this one is going to look basically at the self-publishing process. So here are 15 women who experience success, and it is on my blog that you can go into and look at the top 15. But I will share with you here one that how many persons knew that 50 Shades of Grey was self-published. Did you know that 50 Shades of Grey was self-published by Erica L. James? She writes under the title of her name, E.L. James. How many persons knew that?
I did not know that. That's amazing.
Right. And what you also would know is that you do know that it has been a major hit on television and movies and so on. So so that is one that stood out as well for me, that she was self-published, and then after she was self-published, then they realized that the category that the quality of work that she put out, and people were demanding it. And guess what? She got a traditional publishing contract after that. So sometimes you have to show and tell, and then they come after. And then guess what? Did you know? Did you know that Toni Morrison was another one?
Oh my God.
Yes, Toni
That's amazing.
Morrison. Yes. So she published her first book, The Bluest Eye. And it has that it was so charged with pain and wonder that the novel became poetry. So what we know of her now is that she's a poet, and that all came from that depth of what she was feeling. And when she wrote that book, she self-published that book, and of course she went on to be an industry success. Everybody seemed to know her name as once you're into this genre and loving writing and poetry and all, you know Toni Morrison. Obviously she passed, so rest her soul, but she was one that paved the way as somebody who was very, very successful at self-publishing. So I'll ask you the question, what's your purpose? We're going to stop here for a little bit and rest here. What's your purpose? Why do you write? Whether you're published several books or this is the first time, what's your purpose? Why do you write? You can write it in the chat and If there's any thoughts, why do you write? What's your purpose? Thinking.
All right, we got a few responses in the chat. I have a story to tell.
Okay.
I like to write from my soul for well-being,
Yeah.
to educate and guide patients, to teach people what I wish I knew, because I'm awakened in the middle of the night with creative downloads from the muses,
Right.
and I can't help myself, just always want to write.
Ah, I like that. I like that. Anybody else want to share why they write?
Another one is I write because I feel if I can't make art, I am not living, and to have a conversation with others through the written word.
Nice. To have a conversation with others through the written word. Very good. And I noticed there are some persons who are very introverted and they prefer to write as opposed to as opposed to speaking. So those were some of the reasons. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I will continue. So this quote, I like this quote a lot. This quote by Isabel Allende. Writing is a process, a journey into memory and the soul. And I read that again. Writing is a process. What is a process? It says writers write, readers read, and together they are one. So ever noticed when you're writing, you're always alone, spending hours writing by yourself in that with the whatever medium you use to write, whether it is the computer, your phone, or the traditional paper. You're writing alone and you get into that journey where it gets into your memory. Is it that a relationship that you have that you want to share? Is it a legacy that you have that you want to leave for your children and family and relatives and others of the time that you were here? Or is it for you to, you're thinking about some trauma that you went through? Why do you write? Why do you write? And when you're writing, you get deep down into your soul. And that's what comes out. Alone, alone. Just writing. Anybody can think of that. Anybody shares that experience of just writing and getting those words on paper. And it is healing. It is a healing process. So that's the process of writing. And that's the reason I love this quote. Now, as we get further into the depths of what we're going to be talking about, I'd like to pull the brakes and say, hold up. Remember artificial intelligence. We can't stop it. It's the progress in the world. This is where we're going. But at the same time, just be careful of it. Don't go writing into AI. Write a book on whatever it is that you want to write a book on. That's possible. You can use AI for its intention, right? If you regurgitate a book from it, I attended a session with one of the universities recently. And once I was in that session, there were quite a number of writers. It was an author again. Quite a number of writers were in there. And there's a gentleman making a presentation, and he was sharing that he had used AI to write one of his books. But people started saying, oh my God, no. But then he was defending it to say, hey, I'm not using everything that the AI gave him, the results, but he was using it to create his writing. But I would caution to say you can use AI to give you an outline, especially if you're doing a nonfiction topic. You can use AI for that. But if you're going to use AI to talk about success strategies of leaders, where do you think it's going to come from? That was my work that I shared. It's going to pull information from all over and then put it there. So then you have become the plagiarization comes into effect. So be careful about using AI. So you can use AI. Authors are now using AI for editing to some respect as well. They're using it for finding out marketing aspect, where are your readers and things like that. But be careful about using it otherwise. Any thoughts? I heard someone saying something. So I'll move on. We want to look at the professional production. If you decide to go the route of the self-publishing, So the essential investments that you have to be careful. Anybody can self-publish, but then there are some cautions. Make sure that you have the money upfront to invest in what you're planning to do. There are some optional expenses, but there are some that are essential that you should not. And I'll go over to finding and vetting quality professionals. Quality professionals. So not everybody who says an editor is really an editor. So you need to find that editor that can look at your book. And it's basically best if you can look at a editor that writes in your journal. Because if it is someone who doesn't have the understanding, then they may not be able to edit it. And I have an example of a lady that I was working with recently, and she was writing her book in a language that she needed, the dialect needed to remain set. So she was going out to get an editor. The chances are the editor would change it into English the way it is that it's supposed to write, but that would have taken away the context of her writing. So we had to find the right editor for her. The same thing with book cover designers. You can design your own, as in the DIY approach. But when you do that, what happens there? You have to make sure that all the quality control measures are in place. If you are deciding to do a book cover and it doesn't speak to the essence of the book, or it looks as though you just drew something and put it out, who's going to buy it? So those are some things that you have to take into account, and also look at formatting. What kind of book are you putting out? A friend of mine had reached out to me a year or so ago, and she said, oh my gosh, she was so excited. She asked me for my mailing address, and I sent it to her. And a few weeks later, I received a book in the mail. When I opened the book, I love the title. When I opened the book, I've never read a book like that before. The book was, for want of it was kind of garbage, right? She did not edit it. You could just see that it's somebody who figured that they could put a book together and just write, and then just did follow all the steps of writing and publishing, but the book could not be read. And I'm somebody who would read anything, but that book was really every turn, every move you made, every page you turned, there was an error on it. So if you're even going with the DIY approach to do it yourself, right? Just make sure you're using the quality. Make sure you don't skip any steps at all. For me, I always encourage people, if you're going to do anything, do not cut costs on editing. Do not cut costs on editing. How can you cut costs on editing? You can manage it. You can write a quality paper and then set it aside for a while. Then you go back to it, maybe a week or two. You go back to it to read it. Because what is going to happen is that when you read, you're going to see what is you expect to see. When someone else reads your book, then they will pick up the errors. And I'm saying someone else, like an editor, they will be able to quickly pick up all the errors and the stuff that might be in it, or the context that is supposed to be there when it should be somewhere else. So don't cut corners on your editing fees. The editors are very, very important. So don't cut corners on that. That's what will make your book a success. And of course, they say that the cover, you can tell a book by its cover. Have you ever heard that saying? Can't tell a book by its cover? Well, yes, you can tell a book, the quality of a book by its cover, as well as sometimes the cover is not the best, but the quality inside. But people are going to buy it when they see it. When they're walking in the airport and they see a book, they may pick it up just for the title, just for the title. Sometimes they do that, and just for the cover as well. So don't cut corners on the editing. Now, the platform that you should work with, you need to also be aware of it. Compare what platforms you can use. Is it Amazon KDP? Because KDP is the platform that is used for Amazon. You also have Ingram Spark, right? Ingram Spark and Drafted Digital. And these are platforms that you can use. It depends as well on what do you want. So when I hear new authors are interested or aspiring authors want to use, I usually suggest to them that they go away and think about what is that they want. Do they want to publish, self-publish, or do they want to go with a traditional publisher? It's something that is going to make a difference. So they need to know what platform they want. Is it Exclusive distribution or wide distribution. Wide distribution goes further out into different markets worldwide. Exclusive distribution is with one distributor who decides that they're going to keep it there. Or you might also be writing a memoir, and it's just for your friends and family. So if it's just for your friends and family, then you don't want the public to know. Then anyone who has that link is able to purchase that book because it is only private use. I also know of a real estate agent, and she wrote a book just for her clients. So she doesn't have it published out there. What she does, she uses it and she passes it on to her clients whenever they're ready. Because buying a house is a process, and she wanted to share her process, the process that she uses with them. So her book is basically private. So memoirs can be private, and some nonfiction books can also be private, depending on the use of it. So think about the use, and that's the reason why I asked you, why do you want to write? Why do you write? Pricing strategies is also a very, very important part of it as well. What is it that you want? Do you want to price your book above everybody else in the market? Is that wise? Does that make sense? Right? You got to think about things like that. If you go above or if you go too low, sometimes people don't associate low prices with quality. So it may not necessarily be nice quality. It may be that if you're self-publishing, there might be a period of time that you want to let your book be available, and then you reduce the cost of it. As in a special holiday, for the Christmas holiday, Mother's Day, or something like that, you might think that, okay, let me reduce the price so that they're able to purchase it quickly and give it to their brother, and then increase back the price again. So it's very important that you price your work according to the market. Any questions as we move on into the financial reality check? Any questions?
There are questions in the chat, but they're very AI specific. Are authors today required to let their readers know that they used AI in the creation of their published works? And then, should you use AI for book cover design?
Good questions. Should you use AI for book cover designs? Are you using, my response to that is, are you using a professional designer, or are you just creating it yourself from AI? That would be the consideration there, because the book cover design is also, it's also going to have the title. It's a title with what you're writing about. How do you get the writing done and all of that? What kind of book cover is it that you're in? Do you need to have the marketing side of it as well? So AI will do a little bit of that for you, right? But then again, remember, AI only gives you options. So you got to take some time to look at what AI is looking at. And also what I found is that AI is very easily these days to pick up. Right? So sometimes you put into, I do some blogs and so on, and on my blog, sometimes I've tried the option of, okay, well, AI find that right photo for me. And when the photo comes up, it's very sharp and all. You can, when you're going through the market, you can look on the different medium that all of these are AI, right? So sometimes it is best not to necessarily use it, but then it also gives you options as to what you can use as well. So I'll go on to the financial reality check, right? You need to set realistic income expectations and growth timelines. So I have this young lady that was working with me, and she had asked the question. She published her book, and then lots of people started buying it. And then I think in a few days, she started asking, how much money am I making? It doesn't happen. So you have to make sure that you have realistic timelines. Amazon will give you a payment maybe anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks. You get your report, and you get your report then. So you have to give also time to show the analytics and how much sales you're getting from that. So don't expect that as soon as you start selling or you publish your book, then you're going to get the money in internal. No. The next point is multiple revenue streams. That's one is very, very important. It just goes beyond book sales. And what is there? So you have different options. You may have that you've published a book and then you get speaking engagement. That's a way for you to earn an income, right? So you get speaking engagement. You have training training as well is another option. You also have what we call merch. The younger people will say, hey, you got merch? The merchandise. So you might have, my book is Greenlight, and I have some hoodies and stuff like that. If other persons want the hoodies, then they can purchase it. But it's basically really, I got them for like family members and so on. You may have like pens and stuff. So those are some of the things that you may have merchandise to enhance your book sales, or you may have a quote. I have a book of quotes as well because people love to be motivated. I like to motivate persons because people tend to get demotivated. So I have a book of quotes, and you can take something out of that quotes book and put it on a t-shirt, for example, if you're going to an author event and you get it sales from there. So there are different revenue streams that you can have, big speaking engagements and smaller speaking engagements, just to get yourself out there. And as I mentioned at the start, that books can also have babies, right? Books can have babies, so you can have a workbook that people can use, and different types of revenues that you can get into. There's also reinvestment strategies to grow your author business. So when you do get some money in, if you're really one of those that get a big fat check from your books, what you should do is also to save some. And over time, if you're a new author, what you might find is that you do not have all the funds at once. So try and get like a banner if you need to get a banner, different things. Do your author website and stuff like that. And those things cost money to try and do a website with a website designer. You can do it on yourself, DIY, but if you do it with a professional, you want to put that air of professionalism out. And if it looks professional, then you will have many opportunities. So take your time and build it. You go to different events, you may need to do banners for your table and different kind of things. You're going to realize that these things are out there. And go to training sessions as well. My knowledge was gained when I became an author. I published a book, and then after I said, people were asking me different questions and so on. And I said, oh my goodness, I need to know all of these things. And I started learning, going out over years and years. I listened to podcasts, all of those things to help myself to grow and to know what I can do. Some strategies that you can use to actually sell books. The pre-launch strategy, that one builds anticipation and initial sales momentum. So make sure that you're doing a pre-launch. If you're doing your book, you can start your pre-launch from a year in advance. You may start it within half year, 6 months, but start your pre-launch process. Get the word out. Maybe you start a blog. Maybe you start doing stuff like that to get the word out about what you're doing, and the pre-launch activities, so you can get individuals signing up and being willing to purchase your books even in advance before the book is actually published. Then build your author platform. I mentioned a little bit about that. The author platform includes like your website and putting on a media kit and so on. For when your book is published, you want to make sure that people are going to reach out to you for an author bio and things like that. So when they ask you, you shouldn't really be scrambling to get it. It should be there. Okay, one moment, and you send it to them within a few hours, right? Just send that to them so they have it. Or they can go on your website and pull down that author, that media kit. So there are different ways of creating it that we're not going to get into all the details right now because we don't have that time, but that is a part of what builds your author platform. Then you start your email list, right? There are many platforms that uses that gives you ideas as to, not gives you ideas, that hosts your email list for you, as well as you may just start doing it yourself. So you start off, you don't have to be very big. Start off small. You have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, till you're going to get into 200, 2,000, 3,000, 30 odd thousand. But you have to start somewhere that you can. The purpose of that is to keep your audience informed of what you're doing in terms of your writing. And if you're an introverted author like myself, right? If you're an introverted author like myself, how do you go out there and build that audience? You use authentic connection strategies that don't require much social media. Lots of persons, if you're outgoing, going to be on social media, gonna be sharing and all and doing. I had an author that I said to do an unboxing. Oh my goodness, she saw the box, and within a minute, she went on and she started recording and everything. Whereas you have some others who you had to be saying, oh, do the unboxing and share on social media. And sometimes they don't do it at all. but that actually makes a difference. So the reader, that your reader, and that those advanced purchases that people had done before, when they realize, oh my God, when am I going to get my book? Things like that, 'cause that's the purpose. But then that's on social media. If you're not on social media, then you have to do one-on-one connection. You have to go out there. You may do some virtual, as we're doing now, presentations and learning more about how you can do it. You have to dive into how can I do this without showing myself too much? And find and engage with your ideal readers wherever they are. Where do your readers lie? Your leaders might be engaged in they might be engaged at Goodreads. Is a platform that you can use to see where they are, as well as you might find them on LinkedIn, TikTok, BookTok. So they are there and they comment a lot. That's where your readers are. Then you will hear the comments and hear what they're saying, see what they're saying about the genres in the books in your genre, and maybe you can learn from that. If they also speak to you, you need to respond, things like that. So it doesn't take face to face, but it's behind the scene. What you know, whole purpose is for you to convert the casual readers into dedicated fans so that they're waiting on your next book that is coming out, waiting on you to write, because one book is not one book, yeah, you're an author, but you gotta make, if you want to be a professional author, a writer, you gotta keep writing and putting out um, books to keep that audience going. And then I will wrap up a little with this. Let's go back. I will wrap up with mindset. Mindset is one of the most important things. As you're now a new author, you began from getting words, one word after word after word, and now you have a book and you have published your book. Mindset is important. You have to respond as quickly as you can to transition from aspiring author to a published author. What can you do? What is there to be done? That is getting to that mindset of where are you now? When I published my first book, I realized that, oh my goodness, now I have to be out there. And I am the one that is on stage sharing about my book. Right? I shared it on at the AARLC, the research library. And I'm telling you, I had quite a bit of persons in that room, but then I was on stage and I had to be able to sell the book. And I write really to encourage others. So that was an opportunity for me there. And that shared with me, oh gosh, this is no longer just Shelly only, but this is another opportunity that I had to get into another arena. And also build resilience for against criticisms and market challenges. So criticisms will come. Now think of Harry, Prince Harry, right? Remember him? Prince Harry, I was on a flight to one of these countries, and it was right around when Prince Harry's book was published. I was on a flight to London going to another country, and lo and behold, I saw a gentleman reading the book, and I said to him, well, he wasn't reading it, he just had it in his hand because it's a huge book. And I asked him, so how's that book going for you? On the flight, I asked him that. And he said, oh, I don't know, but there's a lot of buzz about it, so I'm going to buy it. So he bought it, and he was going to read it on the flight. So sometimes you may have criticism and I share that one because the market has been twofold with Prince Harry's books, right? So that's an area that you have to build that resilience, that you want people to criticize. You don't want everybody to say all positive things about your book, right? You want to hear, you want to learn. How can you make it better next time when you're doing a subsequent book, right? So your criticism is also good. So if you get 5 stars on Amazon, everybody gives you 5 stars. Is anybody that perfect? No. Sometimes you want them to give you 4. Or somebody might give you 2 or 1 because they bought the book thinking one thing. And that's one point I need to say as well. If your book is about one aspect, don't give them another aspect, right? Because they're going to be disappointed, and that's when they will write bad reviews for you. So just be careful about that as well. And then keep writing, okay? Keep writing. Remember I said one book is not necessarily a professional writer. So you got to keep that going so you can maintain that long-term success. Any questions that you have?
We do have a few questions. The first question is, what is full market potential for a book?
What is?
full market potential for a book?
Full market potential. So there is, what is full market potential? If they would want to expand on that question, because if you're, is that what I spoke about at the beginning? So you may have not published, you may have published your book, but it is there. So that's the concept I spoke about, publish and run. So you're not promoting the book, you're not using marketing strategies to get your book into different media. You're not going out there to attend book events. You're not doing anything with the book. You're not publishing and you're not advertising it or anything like that to get it into the hands of readers. I hope that answered that question if that's what the person said. If not, they can expand on it.
The next question is, my book is written in French. I want to translate it into English and Spanish. What are my options?
So I'm going to stop sharing here. This is where you can contact me, but I'll stop sharing here. All right. So your book is, can you read that again for me?
Sure. My book is written in French. I want to translate it to English and Spanish. What are my options?
So your options are, for me, I would share with you that, again, you have the issue of AI. That's one, right? So you can use AI to translate. But then remember, if the persons who speak French, English and whatever other language that person said, right? So if it's written in French, then you can translate it. As I said, you have the AI option. You also have the option of finding an person who speaks, a publishing agent or someone that speaks that language that can rewrite that book for you. But it must be a professional. Because once you take it, if you have a friend that speaks French and you decide to give that friend, okay, just translate it for me. It may not come across because that person's may be limited. They may speak in a dialect that is not easily translated to all persons who speak French.
The next question is, how do you negotiate speaking fees for your book?
Ah, how do you negotiate speaking fees for your book? And uh, that's also another question that you might have to speak to one-on-one. You can look at the market, you can go through, you can find what others are charging, because you have to have a basis at your start. You also cannot just think that, okay, I'm going to charge this price, but are you at the caliber of are you at the caliber where you're speaking and who are your competitors? And then you can set your charge based on that. If you want to start small because you want to meet the competition, or you want to go against the competition because you're maybe sometimes an unknown author but want to step in, and then once it become known over and over time, you can start increasing your fees. But you have to start with, and all that comes with research.
Well, the next question is, are there any support groups to guide us on how to format our book on KDP?
Are there any support groups
To guide
you?
us on how to format our books on KDP?
And the answer is yes. There are many groups out there that will guide you on how to do it. Format your book on KDP. I myself offer help with people on it, but it is not just so. It also has to do with the professional output. So are you going to just type a book into Word, and then you might type a book into your manuscript into Word, and then you're going to upload it? They're going to tell you no, they need a PDF format that sticks to there. They have templates on KDP that you need to use and all. So there are different ways. But as I said, you can find classes, right? Find a group of professionals that are available and going to those groups. The groups are available on everywhere. They're on Goodreads, the books, they're on in KDP themselves. You have groups. You will find questions asked, but then it's going to take you much longer. So it's better to just work with a professional that can help you and guide you with it along the way.
So there are no other questions in chat. Does anyone else have a question that they'd like to ask? Or if it's a long question, would you like to unmute and ask it directly? Okay, it looks like there are no other questions. I would like to thank you, Dr. Shelley, for coming and giving us that overview. Yeah, someone put in chat. It was so insightful. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
I am going to.
There's one point that I wanted to mention that
Of
I didn't
course.
mention before, and this was on audiobooks, because that's also a subset of books that you can convert your book into audiobooks. There are many medium now available, and you can also do that. That's an opportunity for you to earn extra income as well. That's just something I just realized that I didn't mention.
Oh, someone put in the chat, how can you hire someone to help with the self-publishing journey?
Well, I actually do that work, and I have had some authors that have gone through the process, because I've done it myself several times over and over. So I've helped individuals as well. Just reach out to me and I can also put you on to the media. If I can't help you, I have a community of authors who also do that, and the traditional the press that they have that do that. So I can help with that there.
Oh, someone asked if you could put your contact info back up on the screen so they can
I
reach
will
out
do.
to you.
Oh yes, I will do that. Sure.
And let's see what the next question is. Oh, there are companies doing away with getting a forward or getting people to write comments on the back of the book. Is this something you would recommend that authors still do?
Doing away with it?
Yes. This person said there are companies doing away with writing the forward at the front of the book, or doing away with the comments on the back of the book. Is this something you recommend that authors still get done?
So it actually depends on what you want. So if you would notice some celebrities, a lot of them sometimes don't have a book description. What they have are they send their books out in advance to advanced readers, and then they give that comment and that feedback. But if it is that you're going to just get casual persons to read and write a review on the back of the book, that is not necessarily the best thing. You have to get someone what called a key opinion leader that is out there that can write something for you to say, hey, this book was amazing. This book was, and you have the New York Times. This is what you do, not necessarily just to ask anyone to write on the back of the book. So it is encouraged because it gives others thing. But again, it comes back to your purpose. What's your purpose? Why would you want it there? And who is writing it?
The next question is, do you have resources to look for the audio or recommendations?
Do you have resources to look for the audio?
Yes, I think she was talking about what you mentioned about getting
Audiobooks?
audio. Yeah,
Right,
audiobooks.
right. There are many resources out there. One of my books is actually an audiobook as well. The Green Light is also an audiobook. And I did not do that, of course, by myself. And I should mention as well that when it was published, that what they do, the process is that you reach out to the individuals, and then we can also discuss that as well. They did my audiobook for me. They send you sample voices, and then you select the sample voices according to what you want. What I found for myself is when it was released and people got it, they were a little bit disappointed. Why? Guess why, Serena?
Why is that?
Why do you think they were disappointed? Because I did not read it myself.
Um,
So Bishop T.D. Jakes, he had a book that he wrote, and normally I think he narrates it, but he decided with the last one that I wouldn't say the last one, but one of them, that he did not narrate himself, but the voice was almost identical to his. And they took him to wrath. They did not want it because they bought it to hear his voice. So that's how the options are there, that you find that resource. And once you find that resource, then they send you different options and voice. So you have to send them a PDF of it and they read it through. And then they send you back a snippet of the person who is reading it, maybe like chapter 1 or so. And then you can accept or reject it, or choose which one you want to work with.
the next question is, how much can editors charge for beginner writers?
How much can editors charge for beginner writers? Editors have a fee, and beginner writers pay that fee. So maybe the question should be the other way around. How much would a beginner editor charge, because they may just be much lower cost than someone who does that for a living, because that's going to take you quite a while, and the cost is the cost. So it depends on who it is that you're going to have editing your work. And as I said to you, it can cost you anywhere up to at a beginning, right? If it's someone who's beginning, maybe 500, I don't want to quote for other person, 500, it can go up to $1,000 depending on your work. And above, obviously, I'm just telling you about the lower end. But the writers who are willing to, sometimes editors have contract with, for example, universities and stuff. So they might be willing to charge you a discounted rate. But that's something that may charge.
The next question is, how do we copyright the book?
Copywriting is a big deal, right? And I don't want to get into too much of the copywriting, but it is said sometimes that there are different things that they said you can do. You can email it to yourself, that's one way. You can publish it, you can mail it, physical mail to yourself, and that shows your work, and you have the postmark and all of those things. And then you have the other copyright. It's just that copyright medium that you have to go through to get your book copyrighted. Uh, so that's also another way, but it is said that if you mail it to yourself or if you put it out there, then it is copyrighted. There are some things that you can't copyright or you can copyright, but I will share with you, like my book is called Greenlight, and I had it out, I think, a year before Matthew McConaughey had his book. So maybe a year later, Matthew McConaughey wrote his book, and it's called, guess what? Green Lights, right? So it's the same name. So when people search for me, what did they find? I got some sales from from when he just came out with his book. When you looked, you had Green Lights and you had me. My book was there neck and neck with him for the first I think couple of weeks. And even on social media, it was there when people searched through. So I got some sales from him because he's a big celebrated celebrity. So I got some sales from him. And so you can't say, okay, Matthew McConaughey, my book is Green Lights, so you can't name your book Green Light. No, it's the different angle that you are. My book was on Green Lights When God Says Go. His book was talking about his journey. And that's Greenlight. He went away and he was writing from his journal. It's the same thing I did. My book, my Greenlights was from my journal, but it's two completely different perspectives. I hope that answered the question.
The next question is, how do you find someone to edit your book if you want to self-publish?
I think we dealt with that, but there are editors available. And again, you can reach out to me, and there are some options that I know of. Of course, you can maybe Google too. So that's the simplest way, but then that's also risky, because when you Google, you have to do a lot of research. So just find a body where has the editors listed, and then you're able to get someone that is at the caliber that you want to do it. And there are editors also on other cheaper medium as well that you can reach out to as well. Fiverr, for example.
The next question is, how can I get more exposure for sales other than Amazon?
I think we mentioned a little bit about more exposure for sales. You have to do other things, right? This is a whole marketing question that I don't know if we have time to get into, but you have to get out there. Social media is a big one. TikTok, Book Talk. You have X now that has a huge platform of writers. Some of them left X when it changed its name, Twitter, formerly Twitter, but they exist there. You also have a lot on Instagram as well. So just find that writing community, start doing some of the things, write out, put your name out there, put your book out there, but you start it from in advance, because when you start a little later, it's not all gone, but then you might have to do some things like change your book cover if you're self-published, change your book cover and stuff like that. That can start the analytics sometimes will think that it's a new book. So there's a whole lot that we can get into, but I know we're almost at time. So So again, anybody wants to reach out to me, and there I'm available on LinkedIn. Follow my blog on successfulleaders.net. You can also contact me there, and my email address is scameron@ccahr.com. And of course, I help authors to publish their stories. Right.
Perfect. There was one final question. It was do I have to be a published writer to be an editor? And Dr. Shelley just mentioned it, Fiverr. Fiverr is probably the best place to go and get started with that. You're a former English teacher who loves to edit. Yeah, it's probably going to be Fiverr, which she just mentioned. Well, thank you, Dr. Shelley. Thank you for answering all of our questions today. Thank you for giving us all that great information. You guys have Dr. Shelley's contact there. And Dr. Shelley, there were questions in the chat about the handout you had. And if you want to just send that to me, I can send that to everybody with the recording link.
Absolutely.
And then everyone who wants it will have a copy.
Absolutely. I'll do that. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for spending your Saturday with us. The next workshop is going to be next Saturday. It is going to be how to find a literary agent with literary agent Samantha Fabian. And she's going to walk us through that next Saturday, same time, 2 p.m. on Zoom. So there's the link if you'd like to register. Also, if you're interested in coming to an in-person program at the library next Friday, we are going to have Wanda Morris here. She's going to be in the Miniachi Theater, and you can find the information on signing up for that program at our library calendar. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Oh, great. People want the information. Great. I'll add it to the recording link and the handout. That email I'm going to send to you, it'll all be in one. All right. It's going to be here at this library. Well, thank you, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. Thanks again for spending some time with us today.